Part 55. The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 542. May 4th to Mixed UN Zone Treasury. In the cave in the mountain, the air is not very good and the taste is not so comfortable, especially the burning fire below, which filled the air with the smell of sulfur, and looked up, it was grey. Such a good ground fire is not used for alchemy. It is really a waste of mixed UN zone. Ecchi sighed and went on. Quickly passed the trail and walked into a small door on a mountain rock wall. Stepping into the door, everything suddenly opened up. I saw a stone house standing in the middle of a huge cave. The size of this cave is no less than that of the karst cave outside. The space is huge, the sky is dome, and numerous stone columns around it are beams. It can be seen that the karst cave outside is naturally formed, and the cave was artificially excavated. What surprised Ecchi the most was that, above the high dome, a huge blue light curtain of Taiji gossip hung, which further confirmed that the UN zone was previously established by the Wuxing Senran or his men. Jin's ultimate mystery is the 5 elements and 8 diagrams thought from the earth. Of course, this has nothing to do with Ecchi. He still wanders the warehouse of UN zone with ease. Entering the warehouse, Ecchi was cautious, and thought he might trigger a ban on the road, but to his surprise, he did not reach the door of the warehouse safely. No, it's not fortified at all. Is it that the treasury of UN zone is so lax? Ecchi still didn't believe it, and walked to the stone house. I walked to the front and found out that this is not a stone house at all. The whole house is made of a whole piece of wood. Ecchi had stared at him. You know, a small piece of black gold outside is extremely difficult to find. He saw a big fist at Cao Muking, and Cao Muking has already become a treasure treasured by Yun Fuzong. The entire house was built by Yujin. However, it is not surprising that the entire passageway in the forbidden area under Qingming was built with Wujin. But even if Ye sees such a large piece of super yukin, he can only look forward to sighing. This thing is so terribly fatal that even the overbearing Gu Baojing Guangxiu can't cut it off. He can use the power of feeding and can't beat a corner. In fact, he also has a method, that is, let the gold-winged ants eat, and pull out the powder after eating. However, he tried it, the speed was very slow. The gold-winged ants that eat black gold stones as tofu would take years and years, and he didn't know how much they could get in 3 years and 5 years, so he gave up in the end. Well, since this house is so luxurious, there must be countless treasures in it. But when Ecchi pushed the door open and walked into the big room, he realized, oh my god. Empty. No wonder there are no restraints here, no wonder the defense outside is so lax, and there is nothing there to love here. Ecchi noticed that there was a row of boxes along the edge of the stone house. More than 10,000 pieces of spirit stone were found, 100 bottles of low-level elixir were found, dozens of low-level materials were found, and Ecchi is already depressed and dying. He has seen the poor, never seen such a poor. A sect that has been passed down for hundreds of thousands of years is even poorer than itself. In fact, this is also a normal thing. The UN Yuanzong's head baby is the undercover of the Corpse Yin section. It is a good thing. Do NTU send it to the Corpse Yin sect? And the battle is about to end. Lei Miao will not leave any good things, even if there is something, he will be collected by his side, close to the collection. Like Yun Fuzong, who placed the treasury in Cao Muking's storage ring, who would know? Lei Miao ancestor. Sooner or later you want to spit everything out to Lao Tzu, Ecchi roared, and put away those low-level materials and spirit stones. Hey, the meat on the mosquito legs is also meat. The empty warehouse was cleaned by Ecchi again. It was almost empty, leaving only dust. Well, forget it, let's go. Ecchi thought of the looters outside the library, still fighting, could not help but laugh. They have been fighting for a long time, who knows that this is just an empty big room. Ecchi was so unwilling to reap this kind of harvest. Laozi digged such a large pit and took so much effort to take this garbage, which was really unpleasant. Looking around, he really let him see. What did he see? Door. This kid is really enough, he didn't steal anything, so he was going to open the door. However, it is not that the door is anything but green. I don't know what the material is. But when he came to the door, he had new ideas, more crazy ideas. Move this house. In fact, the most valuable thing is this house, all of which are Ajin. If others really can't move, Yekong is not afraid. His 36-story storage ring has a lot of space. He raised his hand and put the room in. Okay, it's really empty now. However, it was surprising that after the house was taken away, it was found that there was a teleportation array below. Yekong was curious, went up to observe it, and found that it was a short-range teleportation array. This is nothing terrible, at least not to other continents. Under the weight of such a house, so secretive, maybe it is the teleportation array leading to the real treasure? Hey, this is a little interesting. Yekong was overjoyed, took out a piece of instant jade and plugged it in, and the teleportation array started normally. Yekong walked in, and after a while, finally arrived at the location. This is the end of a long and narrow passage. When someone comes in, a neat row of moonlight stones on each side lights up, and it feels like a walkway in a modern office building at night. Yekong looked around, and saw the portraits hanging on the wall in sequence, with the words below, Hunyuanzong Kaizong Ancestor Wuxing Scattered People Yan Sigi. Yekong also knew the names of the 5 elements scattered people for the first time, but think about it, it is probably not the real name. Bachan came to the Kangnan continent and wanted to return to the earth, which gave him the name of thinking about returning home. Unexpectedly, Junyuanzong was actually created by the 5 elements scattered people. Yekong nodded. No wonder when the former Yuan zone mobilized, some people said that the Yuan zone was the first gate of Kangbei. With such an astonishing figure as the 5 elements Sanren, it is hard to think of not being the first. Seeing this, Yekong was also very depressed. He was a successor of the 5 elements, but today he is slaughtering his sectarian disciples. Is this considered a bullying teacher to destroy his ancestors? But having said that, they have no injustice with the mixed Yuan zone. They do not kill themselves first, and they will not kill them. They must blame only the conspiracy behind the corpse Yinzong. Behind is the 2nd generation, the 3rd generation, are all old men, nothing good. But in the 7th generation, a portrait of a woman appeared, the 7th generation ancestor Meimu Wuxi. This martial art looks like a young woman. It looks like a little woman who just married and just tasted the joy of men and women. She didn't say anything about the figure, she was a beautiful woman, but what surprised Yekong was that although the woman's image was neat and tidy, she looked like herself, but felt that the evil thoughts in her heart had risen sharply, and her pants were hot. Is there any evil door? Yekong glanced again, only to find that the woman's eyes had a problem. The extremely charming, water-like eyes let the man look away and couldn't look away. So beautiful, so good, Yekong muttered to himself. At this moment, there was only one thought in his heart: kiss her, touch her. Good strong Mei Gong. Yekong shook his head sharply, and then he was sober. I don't think Wu Wu has died for hundreds of thousands of years, and the eyes in the image left are unbearable. Yekong didn't dare to look at her eyes anymore, and hurried forward. At the end of the passage, Yekong finally saw a big room outside, and a strong foreign light shot out from the big room. Yekong thought he had encountered something, and stepped forward. But he went out for a look, but the scene in front of him made him cry and laugh. The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 543. May 4th. Senior. Seeing the scene in the big house outside the passage, Yekong couldn't help crying and laughing. He had wanted to find treasures, but he did not expect to find a group of living treasures. I saw a small sleepy array in front of me. 20 old guys were sitting cross-legged in the array. An old guy with a mustache was shouting and scolding his mother. "Lay meow, you dog thing, I do nt kill your disciples, why do you trap the old man here?" Huang Hao, the ancestor of Zongji, shouted the most. "Do nt look at the old man who is thin and small," shout the voice is loudest, and there isn't any kind of demeanor, and any swear words can be scolded. Do nt shout, "We have different acacia sections." I did nt expect that the mixed UN zone really ate the leopard gall this time. For a disciple, they offended the famous gates and families in Kangnan. Should they mix the UN zone again? The ancestor of Hehuanzong is a dignified woman. The woman whispered softly and very softly, which was the man's favorite. Looking at her again, she is a beauty with a small face, big eyes, and a small mouth. It is the best among women. Hehuanzong is handsome and beautiful. Of course, Yuan is more beautiful. Her figure is also very small, but it is curvy, big, and small, and no less inferior to the ocean. Which man does not want to have such a bird-like woman but one of them? However, Yekong has no idea about this woman, even YY is unwilling. It's a bit boring to think that she and the male disciple in Zongmen are arbitrarily arrogant. Although Yekong is not attached to the question of virgin, for example, Baiji made him happy, but he was a woman like a bus. He will not be able to generate interest. But having said that, they are the ancestors of Yuanying and the head of a case. Your Litsi is dark and useless. They are not interested in you yet. Yekong was invisible, and the ancestors of Yuanying were invisible, so they were still chatting. I heard Yun Fuzong and Cao Guang's incarnation laugh and said, "Elderly Yi Tong, Huang Hao, you say that you were affected by my Yun Fuzong. Now it seems that you haven't figured out the situation. You really think Lei Miao did my apprentice kill my apprentice? Do you think Lei Miao really avenged his apprentice? You are all wrong. Mixed UN Zone has long been colluding with the dead Yin sect, embarrassed and arrogant, trying to defeat each sect, dominate Kangnan. No, I heard that Jun UN Zone also sneaked into the dead Yin sect some time ago, which damaged a lot of manpower. Yi Tong's ancestors didn't believe it. At this time, the stone top wind of Qingming opened. After investigation, those who died were the opposition in Lei Miao in the mixed UN Zone. It turned out to be this way. I am the 88th generation ancestor of Lei Miao. Collusion with the corpse Yin sect. I think this old dog is really tired. Huang Hao of the refiner sect began to curse again, saying all bad words. Many of these ancestors of Yuanying are hundreds of years old. They have seen everything early, and they also speak of a sectarian image. There are really not many swearers like Huang Hao. Maybe attracted by the scolding, the opposite door opened and walked into a monk in the foundation period. The monk grunted coldly, sarcastically, "Don't scold, is it useful? When our ancestor Lei Miao kills your gatekeeper, he will come to kill you, you old guys, please ask for blessings." Huang Hao cursed, "Where are you, bird stuff? 1,000 you are not your husband's opponent. If it weren't for Lei Miao's dog thing, the husband would kill you all." The real person who built the base laughed, "You Yuan ancestors, you are very powerful, but you can't cast mana and spells now, it's no different than mortals. When we mixed UN Zone, the first case in Kangbei was false." "What?" "Tell you. We have had a shocking figure in UN Zone, even the immortal Master Xiandi of the immortal world could not take him." Speaking of the ancestors, Zuji real people arched their hands against the sky, and then said, "You ancestors of the ancestors, to our ancestors of the UN Zone ancestors, are not farts at all. The forbidden spirit space in this mixed UN hall is our 9th generation ancestor was set up when he first arrived in Kangnan. All monks can't act violently during the restraint. Just wait for your death." Huang Hao cursed, "Hundreds of thousands of years ago, you do nt know the truth, but you still believe so. If Lei Miao had not lied to us by mean means, we would have killed you. It's up. Lian Fanchen of Linjiashan was upset and persuaded, yellow friends, save your energy and have a good idea with the junior. Ye Kong heard their conversation and probably understood the process. Xianyuanzong borrowed to discuss how to deal with his own killing of Fang Xiafei, and invited the major ancestors to enter the Yuan Hall. These ancestors boasted that their magical powers were high, and they did not expect that Lei Miao would smite them, so they came. Who knows, there is a place in this temple where the use of force is forbidden. The ancestors of Zhonyuan infants didn't notice it, only to find it after entering. But it's too late, they have become immortal in this ancient ban, and they trapped more than 20 Yuan babies. If these more than 20-headed infants were killed, would all the majors and families in Kangnan be hit hard? Ye Kong thought about it this way, but it wasn't good for himself. Instead, he thought of Lei Miao and others. And those who hate themselves are mainly the Shitting Feng in Qingminggu, and the others are not so hate. It is better to save them than kill them. Once they go out, the mixed Yuan zone will lose. Well, just do it, major denominations. Lao Zi Ye Kong is the life-saving benefactor of all your denominations. Ye Kong thought about it, uncovered the hidden magic charm and jumped out. Mixed Yuanzong's kid. Let's go crazy. Eat on the next brick. Ye Kong didn't know where to get a square brick and patted it on the real brain of Zuji. But unexpectedly, there was nothing wrong with that real person. His ancestors, haven't they shot people for a long time, and their craftsmanship has grown rusty? The real person at Zuji touched his head, and then he laughed. It turned out to be Li Fuzi of Yun Fuzong. You are a very good brick, but I forgot to tell you that when you were not immortal in the mundane world, you just practiced iron. First effort. Ye Kong was depressed. Today is really boring. Bricks hit people and iron head work. Iron head work. Ye Kong scratched his head helplessly, but rushed up instantly. Then I will see if you practice iron bird work. Seeing the two fighting with Poppy helplessly, the 20 Yuan babies were not idle, and the old man Huang Hao shouted excitedly, "Kids, slap your eyes. Kick his birds. He chrysanthemum." Ye Kong fainted. "Please, do you have a good image of a senior man?" After the death fight, in fact, there was no death fight, Ye Kong took advantage of the fight and posted a blind note to the boy. This mortal yellow paper sign is very useful here. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 544. May 4th Extortion. Of course, Ye could not easily win. He had a fierce battle with the blind monk, and he was scarred again, and then he won. When the guy was brought down, the ancestors of Yuanying shouted, "Hurry up and let me wait out." Li Hizi, hurry up. However, someone Ye was unable to walk over and sighed, "You are the first babies, not to save you from the downstairs, but if you are saved to spread, then I am the life-saving benefactor of the major denominations in Kangnan. Don't take it seriously, please wait for me to inform the disciples." Each Yuanying was already embarrassed. How could Ye Kong leave? As soon as he left, he couldn't figure out what to do. Huang Hao's ancestor said depressed, "You idiot, I thought you were an informal hero. I didn't expect to be crooked." The hypocrite Shi Dingfeng also laughed, "Yeah, the sunspot friend saved us. We should be thankful, even if it was passed out. I'm not afraid of people talking." Ye Kong was angry when he saw the old guy, and sneered, "I'm afraid that some people are talking so nicely now. When I go out and be talked about, my heart will be unbalanced. How can the monk in the late Yuanying period make minor repairs to the base? You can't stop the killing. Shitting Wind is depressed, why does it seem to come at me? Do I know you has Qingminggu offended you? However, he is still very good on the surface. He laughed at the moment. You think about it, little friends, but it is also true that you think about it. Otherwise, we swear that we will never hurt you after going out. What do you think? That's fine, of course. Yekong didn't say anything. Until the 20 UN babies had swear, Yekong said quickly, you can't do it. This is a killer, how can you let everyone swear? I have no room for self-confidence. Those Yuanings touched their noses, and said, don't say it earlier. We only swear before we say it. It's really hypocritical. Well, gangster, don't make any noise, let's zoom in and come out, Cao Guang's avatar said in a majestic manner. Your ancestor, dare to yell at me with a new clone? Be careful I expose you. But it was really revealed, and Cao Guang couldn't spare him when he went back, just think about it. But letting it go like this, Ye was not very happy. While whispering outside, he muttered, where's the eye? It's hard to find. Oh, I was hit in the waist just now, it hurts, I can't walk moved. Lian Fanchen shouted, friend, hurry up. After the battle, the old man has healed Sheng Dan and Heio intermittent pills. Shi Dingfeng over there shouted, I have a high-level spirit grass, and then rebone the grass and apply it to the wound. It will be good immediately. Yi Tong's ancestor also laughed, it's okay for my little friend to have back pain. We have strong kidney and waist reinforcing methods. We will teach you when you go out. It will make your waist muscles strong, and you will never wear them. Yekong sighed again, oh, unfortunately, my slab just now has been with me for decades. I have a deep relationship and can't let go. My heart is sad. The ancestors of Yuanying over there are all depressed. Why does the word sound so familiar? Think again, didn't you just say that when extorting Lei Miao? This kid knocked on us. Although depressed, but the person is under the eaves, the ancestor also bowed his head. The ancestor of the sword dock shouted, you must be very annoyed, our sword dock weapon is the best in the world, and I will give you a refining sword. Huang Hao of the refining tool sect quits, angrily said, on the Weaver's own Feng family, which has been passed down for hundreds of thousands of years, I will give you a slab of spell tool slabs, which is definitely better than your original board. Bricks are 1,000 times better. Then Yun Xiaozong wanted to send Yekan K cloud boots, Ling Shushan was ready to send the animal breeding experience, other companies were willing to send special products, and then someone finally found out. In fact, those ancestors who do not know that someone is extortion? But there is no way, just hit it, it's a thank you. After the infants went out, they didn't bother to leave their accounts. After leaving the area of the forbidden space, they took out the promised items and handed them to someone. Lian Fanchen handed a bottle of black jade discontinuous pills and laughed, kids, friends, welcome to come to my elixir mountain in the future. My old man, Lian Fanchen, likes to meet young heroes. Someone said, rest assured, I will go and marry back the first beauty of your elixir mountain. Shi Dingfeng laughed, this is a rebone refining grass, I must go to Qingming Valley to visit. Humph. Yekong snorted, annoyed Shi Dingfeng, and also snorted, teleporting away. The old man's own Huang Hao patted someone's shoulder. Little friend, I'll make a brick for you when I'm busy, so you can shoot countless people, pat his mother's curvy chicken, if you are interested in joining the practice G-Zone, our frontier is absolutely. Cao Guang's avatar quit, angrily said, hey, old man, how can you dig people like this? Can't you be an old man? Huang Hao probably saw the identity of Cao Guang's incarnation. Haha laughed, it's okay, I'll welcome the husband when you want to join the refiner section. After that, he moved away instantly. Then the ancestors of other gates also gave promised gifts. What they didn't have at the moment also indicated that they would take the initiative to send them back. Although these are good things, the ancestors of each gate will not be too much. Oh, it's so kind, Thank you, Mr. Xie, and the younger he Yekong smiled, while stuffing things into the storage bag. He thought, hey, it's really not bright to the east and bright to steal. The treasure house did not steal anything, but extorted it. The ancestors listened to him extorting extortion as a reward, and they were also very satisfied. They threw things down, nodded, and went out to fight in a teleportation. However, when the ancestor of the Acacia ancestor Yi Tong sent the exercises, he reminded him, although these things are not the most valuable thing, they can be very expensive to add together. You have to be careful of your own eyes. Yi Tong's ancestor smiled back. The teleportation disappeared. Yekong couldn't help but sigh. These Acacia women not only attracted men by their appearance, but this sudden concern also made men's hearts move. Although she knows the nonsense she speaks, the beauty's concern and tenderness can completely conquer the mind and body of a man. Look what, He Huanzong has nothing good, and is dedicated to the core disciples of the farewell faction. They all left, and only Yekong and Cao Guang were left. Yekong didn't have a cold on this avatar, so he didn't feel good. All the other ancestors' rewards have been given. What is the reward? The clone said angrily, look for him, and I have no decision. What can I reward you for? Yekong listened for a moment. No, it seems that this avatar is very emotional. Go back and remind Master, don't be blinded by this guy. Yekong asked again, Second Master, did you go back by yourself or did you to join you? Do you really think the teacher wants you to protect? Cao Guang's clone rolled his eyes and left Yekong before flying away. Well, he has a good temper. He should have exactly the same temperament as Master, so why does it seem the opposite? The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 545. May 4th Master. Flying out of the mixed UN hall, Yekong was still very happy. First, let the major clan families in Kangnan owe their affection. This is a great gain. In the future, if you do have long eyes, you will straighten up the pole and come to the sentence, I am your life-saving benefactor. That's cool. Another is a little harvest, the elixir of the elixir Shanlian Fanshan personally refining, which is really a good thing. If there is any danger, the black jade intermittent pills can be put on one, maybe it will save lives. The spirit grass of Qingming can be cultivated with interest soil, and there are many other exercises and materials. And sword dock and the smelter zone owe the same instrument, Zongmen Master Yuan Ying personally crafted, it should not be garbage. The battle outside is still going on, but with more than 20 heads of Yuan Ying playing, it is estimated that this play will not be long. Not far outside, there is a group of monks of Dandan in the war. Yekong does not want to provoke monks of Dandan. The old ancestor of the heart had already let him suffer. Although he won, it was a victory. Let's stick the hidden charm to walk through this dangerous area. The hidden charm is really good. Except for Yuan Ying's ancestor, no one can find him at all. Yekong affixed a hidden charm and wanted to cross the area of Monk Jadan War, but the scene in front of him changed his mind. I saw that not far from the west of the sky, there was also an old ancestor of the mixed UN zone who cast a mixed UN and Wu Yin and Yang ball and trapped a woman with a knot in the ball, unable to escape. That Yin and Yang ball is like a transparent full moon hanging in the air. At this moment, it is getting smaller and smaller. The ball shows a mature and touching face that should be tender and delicate. In urgent circumstances, she is gritting her teeth to support her, but it is more moving. The old ancestor of the mixed UN zone laughed and said, early heard of Yun Fuzong's Moss ancestor, she is absolutely gorgeous, and the old man would not be willing to kill you. Life. Cao Mo said angrily, shameless. You are shameless, I just follow a ghost, and I will not talk to you. Li Yongsheng changed his face and hummed coldly, there is no male and female on the battlefield, then don't blame me. You see, you are addicted to being a widow. After he finished speaking, he had a trick in his hand, and the shade of the sun immediately accelerated the contraction speed. Li Yongsheng. You die, not far away. Cao Muking also found the danger here, and hurried to rescue. Although the relationship between the sisters is not very harmonious, after all, they are sisters, and there is no reason to die. Haha, while packing up the widow, while packing up the female BT who likes women, I'm really lucky to win. Li Yongsheng laughed, fighting with Cao Mu. Although Li Yongsheng and Cao Muking were fighting fiercely, the shade of the sun was still getting smaller. Cao Muse has reached the point where she can strike one another. In fact, her cultivation is higher than Li Yongsheng, but she was accidentally wrapped in this light ball. At first she wanted to break the light ball, but then she found that the light ball was hard, and she couldn't break it at all. She constantly tried to pierce the light ball with her device, but it was invalid. She threw a spell again, but it was still ineffective. Instead of blasting the ball, she wounded herself, and her clothes were torn. Cao Mo's spiritual power was exhausted, she was desperate, she knew that danger was in sight, death was at this moment, and she was trapped in this light ball. I am afraid that Jin Dan could not escape. When she was about to die, she suddenly became sad. Mourning for more than 100 years, he did not find a good man and lived for a few days. She closed her eyes in despair, waiting for death, with a smile on her lips. Others don't give themselves good days, and they should be happier when they die. Just then, Yekong came. For this kind of light ball, he has already learned very much, that is, use the spear to attack the shield of the child, and use its yang to attack its yin. Yekong flew in the same gust of wind, holding a small sword weapon in his hand, his body spinning rapidly, the tip of the small sword against the shade of the sun, and the sword with the yang attribute on the light ball to attack the light ball. The yin attributes are mixed. If you do not stick the hidden charm, you can see that Yekong rotates like a gyro. With each revolution, the sword tip will pass through the ball of light, driving the two hybrid elements on the ball to attack each other. It's easy to master the law, and within a few moments Hyun Yuen photosphere collapsed from the inside. Yekong didn't remove the hidden charm, and no one saw him. Seeing that the light ball was broken, Li Yongsheng stumbled for a while. This frustration was just a good opportunity for Cao Muking. While taking advantage of the flaw, Li Yongsheng was beaten up. Cao Muse, trapped in the light ball, did not know that someone had saved herself. She closed her eyes tightly and felt her body fall quickly. Is this dead? Cao Muxi muttered to herself, she didn't know she had been rescued yet. Yekong quickly flew down and hugged Cao Muse's body, but when he started embracing, there were strange softness in his hands. A hooligan was shocked and did not dare to indulge his wife's teacher. His hands were conditioned and loose. When he returned to God, Cao Muse's body had reached the sea. Yekong accelerated down again. Boom! Both smashed into the sea and hugged tightly. Not dead yet. When Cao Muse was stimulated by the sea water, her brain was immediately sober, and someone saved herself. However, she was exhausted and was already injured. The huge earthquake that just fell into the sea just shocked her, and her instinct for survival made her hold the invisible man's neck tightly. Yekong, who had fallen into the water, quickly used the water avoidance method, and the two quickly floated to the surface. The black jade discontinuous pills obtained from Lian Fanchen just now are useful. Yekong quickly grabbed one and stuffed it into Cao Muse's mouth. It's black jade intermittent pill. It's the people of the Elixir Mountain who saved themselves. Cao Mose has eaten this thing before, and knows that it is the healing medicine of Ling Yaoshan. She took a breath and let the medicine melt inside her body, repairing her body. It wasn't Yekong who was going to play hooligan. Cao Muse didn't need to avoid water, he couldn't let her sink. The sea at night was not calm. One after another, the waves came and went, and each time, the two were tightly attached to each other. The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 546. Who are you? Cao Muse finally opened her eyes this time. She could tolerate this person kissing her, but if this person took any further action, she wouldn't be able to bear it, at least to see who this person was. But she opened her eyes but didn't see anyone. She quickly realized that this man must have a hidden weapon. Yekong looked at her soberly, and did not dare to move her hands, so she looked at her quietly. Who are you? Cao Muse finally spoke, and she blushed when she spoke, thinking to herself that she was really ridiculous, and didn't know who this man was, and kissed him. Yekong was silent. He really couldn't say. I can't tell Cao Mose, it's my Lihisa. It doesn't matter who Ye is, but Cao Muse is afraid to accept it. It is estimated that Cao Muse will be ashamed to death just after speaking. Seeing that he wasn't talking, Cao Muse sighed and said, presumably you are inconvenient to meet people, so you cover your body with hidden spirits, but Dai rest assured, you saved my life, he will not reveal the identity of Dai. Yekong still doesn't speak. Cao Muse really wanted to see who the man who saved her and kissed her again. But the other side's life and death didn't speak, which made Cao Mose a little angry. I was touched by you again. Can't you show up? Cao Muse's annoyed after repeated requests repeatedly, he was not angry, you get up, I'm fine. Since you can't show people the true face, then you go. Ye hollowed out a sigh. Since it can't appear, let's go. When she let go of Cao Mose, she found that she was almost okay, so she flew up, but he didn't leave, just flew into the air to watch Cao Mose. Cao Mose felt a little light, knowing that he had left, and then he took a long breath. But her beauty eyes were firm again, huh? Hiding your head and covering your face, I must find you out. Yekong was not in a hurry to leave, because no one could see him anyway. He looked at Cao Muse, only to see that she was indeed unharmed, then he was relieved. That black jade discontinuous pill is really powerful, so it can be restored in such a short time, and I knew that there are many points with Lian Fanchen. At this moment, the war situation has changed abruptly. There are more than 20 Yuanying monks on the side of Jendao Alliance. Among them, there are 3 Yuanying monks in the late period. The mixed Yuan zone couldn't resist at all. The disciples died one after another. Xiu also hung too. The fighting area in the sky is getting smaller and smaller, and all are concentrated on the peak with the mixed column. Then a loud voice shouted, the dilemma in Yuan is in danger. All disciples, don't make unnecessary sacrifice, don't panic, focus on Zuyuan. All disciples of the Yuan sect, including the dead Union disciples, heard this voice and all began to withdraw to the column of the Zhuanyuan sect. At the same time, the monks of the major denominations also followed closely, some on the ground and some in the sky, and gradually concentrated on the peak where the Zhuanyuan pillar was located. Is this mixed Yuan zone fighting or fainting? This time should be to give up the position and retreat to the dead Yinzang, retreat to the peak of the mountain, isn't that a dead end? Is there anything famous? Yekong Gli muttered. Before that, he had just met Wang Tingshi under the column of Hunyuan, and was very impressed. He recalled that there did not appear to be any facilities such as teleportation arrays on the mountain peaks, and he did not understand why the Hunyuanzang retreated to such a dead end. Yekong didn't understand and didn't think about it. He found an unattended place and took off the hidden magic charm, and then stepped on the flying sword to the top of the mountain. The area of the Zhuanyuan pillar is not small, but it cannot hold tens of thousands of people, so monks of all factions hang on the summit sky, surrounded by 1,000 monks on the peak. Yekong passed and easily found the Yunfuzan camp. In the past, he saw Huang Zixuan and others. Although they were all wounded, they were still alive, which made Yekong feel relieved. One for each person. Yekong poured out a few black jade discontinuous pills and threw them to them. Don't look at this one, which is small and black, not much bigger than rat feces, but you can smell rich dangxiang in your hand, and the fool knows that this is a good thing. Are you okay? Huang Zixuan didn't care about the elixir. As long as she saw someone intact, her hung heart suddenly landed. Rest assured, my body is better, my food is more fragrant, and I am stronger than a cow. 3 or 5 opponents can do nothing. What can I do? Someone said with a grin. Yeah, we have something, and he will have nothing to do with it. Lan Tianming came up and whispered, Kurai, what kind of elixir is so good, is there any gain just now? Xian was even more direct there. Brother, the next time you ransack the warehouse, please take me with you. Zhang Wulin said angrily, you need to take me. I'm your sister-in-law. Xian, you can go to the sea to pick up the dead person's storage bag. Xian blushed, I picked 3, I chose not to choose nothing. There is nothing to care about these lost friends, but Yekong is angry. How do they know that they are going to rob the mixed UN zone coffers? When he asked, he found out that when he started to go, he was not invisible. Many disciples of all factions saw it. Seeing him rushing into the hall of his house, guess what? There is no fool who cultivates immortals. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 547. May 4th Return Camp. However, he could not admit such things. If this is the case, I don't know how many people are jealous. This mixed UN ancestor, which has been passed down for hundreds of thousands of years, must have many babies. Who knows that there is an empty library in it? Yekong quickly denied, what ransacked the warehouse, and the warehouse of the mixed UN zone was easily accessed by me on the 3rd floor. We don't want to share things with you, either. Cut, do you have less time to divide things? Well, that's right, that's not the point, it's the looting. I'm really not going to rob the Junyuanzong treasury, Yekong said innocently, I was instructed to go to the Yuan Hall to rescue the besieged ancestors of Yuan. People are even more unconvinced. What is the practice of others' ancestors? One finger can solve you and need your rescue. Yekong only said, what I just gave you is the elixir sent by the elder monk Shanlian Fan Chen, the elixir of the elixir mountain healing, and the black jade discontinuous pills. Do you say this is something in the Yuan zone warehouse? When Yekong said this, everyone would be hard to doubt, and Cao Junfan nodded. Yes, it is the Heio intermittent pills of Linjiao Mountain, the holy medicine for healing, even the ordinary Linjiao Mountain disciples. In this way, everyone did not ask, but looked at the small pill in surprise. Huang Zixuan received some skin and was unwilling to eat, and put away the pills. The girls were attentive, but she didn't know that the little pill turned back and caused a lot of annoyance to someone. They talked casually, and Yekong saw Cao Mo's flying, and he was looking around as if looking for someone. Yekong quickly drew his eyes away, his heart stunned. She won't find it, right? If she knew it was Buddy, what would happen? If Yekong regrets, he certainly does not. Cao Mo's soft lips are so moving, her small tongue is so sweet, and the size that one hand can't hold, when her fingers pinch her, she trembles, someone now thinks, still scared. Not afraid to look at Cao Muse, Yekong looked at Zuyuan Zufeng. Lei Miao took the other 6 ancestors of the babies, lined up, and there were thousands of disciples. After this bitter battle, everyone in the mixed UN zone was disheveled, and many of them were dazzled. Even those who were seriously injured did not care about others. We have arrived in this situation, you don't want to be too aggressive, Lei Miao calculated for so long that he didn't expect it to be the end. At this moment, his eyes were as red as a wild beast with crazy hair. Huang Hao of the refiner sect suddenly burst into anger and scolded, "I forced your ancestors to lie to me in the Yuan Hall, and wanted to wipe them out. Are we hated by you, the Yuan sect? Who are you? Say it." Having said that, even Lei Miao had no confidence. He also said, "In this case, the old man apologized to the public for the loss, and the loss caused by Han Yuanzhong will be compensated in the future. Don't cut off our inheritance of Yuanzhong. You dream." Shi Dingfeng flew out and roared, "If you want to fight, fight, don't fight. Don't fight." The old man is always good at heart and doesn't want to have more trouble, but this time the old man couldn't see. "You can ignore it, but you ask our disciples in the struggle, do they agree or not?" "Don't promise," the disciples of each faction roared in unison. The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 548. May 48 Ultimate Spell. After hitting here, they all have red eyes. Everyone is preparing to kill the revenge of the mixed Yuanzhong. How could they be willing to let them go? But Shi Dingfeng, a hypocrite, has a set, he doesn't come out early, but he doesn't come out late. Now, a few words, as if he is the boss of all factions. Listening to the disciples of each faction, Shi Dingfeng was also comfortable, and said to Lei Miao and others, "To this day, you will confess your fate. If you do harm to others, you will not do harm to yourself." I did not expect that. Lei Miao laughed, "Since you are so committed, don't blame us for mixing Yuanzhong." The ancestor of Hehuanzhong Yitan could not help but frown, and said, "This Lei Miao has reached such a situation, and his words are so arrogant, I really don't understand what he is relying on." Yun Fuzong Cao Guang stared at Lei Miao, and said to himself, "I'm afraid there are no other means to use this mixed Yuanzhong. Their voices are not loud, but everyone can hear them clearly. Lian Fanchen has always been drunk with alchemy." This time, Lei Miao was trapped in the array. He was also in a state of anger, and now he was angry. Lei Miao. If there is any means to make it out, I will not believe it. Jo men, 5 families, a total of 32 Yuan babies, afraid you will not succeed. Then you wait. Lei Miao smiled coldly and nodded to the other Yuan monks. Then all monks of the mixed Yuanzhong knelt down, including several Yuan infant ancestors, all kneeling on the ground in front of the mixed Yuan column. When the major factions were unknown, they saw a man coming out from under the column. Surprisingly, this man looks exactly like Lei Miao and has the same look and temperament. The only difference is this little Lei Miao is the repair of the base period. All Yuanzhong knelt down, and only this little Lei Miao stood, as if everyone was visiting him. "This is Lei Miao's twin brother," Huang Zixuan asked in confusion. "No, this is Lei Miao's incarnation," Ye Kong whispered. "Oh, it turned out to be an incarnation." Cao Junfen and others nodded, but their questions came again. "Lei Miao's true body could not beat us, and sent another avatar to build the base period to do? Actively send to death? I don't know, there must be something wrong." Ye Kong had felt wrong, he could not help but take a step back. If something goes wrong, there must be a demon. It seems that the demon is not small. When Lei Miao's incarnation came out, he took out a golden Chan key, and inserted it into the eye of a small hole towards the bottom of the mixed Yuan column. Although they didn't know what they were going to do, none of the fairies who had lived for hundreds of years was a good stubble. They immediately shouted in unison, stopping them from casting." However, it is too late. The earth-shaking big law formation has been opened. The most amazing thing is that this law formation has the function of preventing outsiders from obstructing its operation. When a few old ancestors rushed over, there were a few lightning bolts in the sky. Click. The lightning power was 10 times stronger than Ye Kong's thunderfire curse. Several old ancestors of Jiden didn't hum. They hacked on the spot and the scorch burned down to the peak. The lightning power was so great that it was an ancestor Jin Dan did not escape. All the martial arts were shocked. What kind of spell was this? It was so powerful. Jidan ancestors can easily hack, how can they stop them from casting? This spell must not make it successful. It seems that only Yuan Ying has gone. This is what everyone thinks. But there were dozens of UN babies present, but no one dared to take risks. Just now the power of thunder and lightning was too great, and they were not sure about resisting. But there are also people who are not afraid of death. The old man Zhong Huanghao shouted, "Let me try." Shi Dingfeng once again put on the expression of the hypocrite, caring, "Brother Huang must not, according to my observation, the power of thunder and lightning is far from what we have seen. There were 6 knots of dendrites in the early period, and later periods. But the power of the 6 thunderbolts was uneven, and they just chopped down, and the power was just right." Everyone took a breath of air. What kind of magical power is this? The calculation is so accurate. Use the small lightning in the base period and the large lightning in the dendrite period. The strength just chops you to death. Presumably the ancestor of Yuanying went, it must be a bigger lightning, and it is estimated that it will not escape. Ye Kong was surprised that Yuanying's magical powers were amazing in the late period of the infant. Just before the lightning flashed, there was no half a second, but Shi Dingfeng had already analyzed the power of the 6 lightnings. At the same time, Shi Dingfeng, the old guy, had amazing observation. Other Yuanying did not expect it, but he did. It seems that in the future, he just lingered in front of him, and don't let him find anything. But after Shi Dingfeng said, Huang Hao still grinned, "It's all right." Just when everyone lamented that Huang Hao's ancestors dared to be the first person and were not afraid of sacrifice, they watched him slap a storage bag, a human figure flew out. Suddenly someone whispered, "I still admire him for not being afraid of death. It's not him who wants to go in himself." The person's voice is low, but Huang Hao can clearly hear that he was not cultivated. Suddenly scolded, "The little beast of Vunaling Shushan has some kind to speak out. Your mother, if you can come up with this puppet of midterm infant strength to experiment, the old man will admire you." Everyone heard, immediately looking at Huang Hao's eyes were different, even a black man's eyes were burning. "Oh my God, there is a puppet of Yuanying's midterm strength. Who has this thing? Who are you afraid of?" The ancestor of Yuanying royal beast of the Lingshao mountain laughed immediately, "Brother Huang is not going to compare with the junior, that kid, I must go back and pack him." Huang Hao snorted, and that was why he installed a top-quality spirit stone. Looking down at the eyes, I saw the magpie flying in the direction of Zhenyuanzhu. Surprisingly, the puppet was not hindered in any way, and no thunderbolt was generated. Before everyone had time to be happy, they heard Huang Hao suddenly roar, "No! Go!" Then the old man fled with a sense of indifference. All the monks are messed up here, the picker, the U-turner, mess up. Fortunately, Ye Kong was well prepared. He was the fastest batch to escape. Boom! Hey, the thunder and lightning in the sky slashed without warning, centered on the column of Sunyuan, surrounded by 10 miles, all covered with thunder and lightning. It is just a cage of thunder and lightning. Monks who did not escape in time, died of light. Fortunately, the cage is not large. If it is 100 miles away, it is estimated that people here will die. The escaped monks were shocked, and looked back at the nearly 1,000 comrades in arms falling, the body, broken limbs, just like a rain. Those famous disciples were stunned. Although they had been fighting before, it was not so fast. Thousands died in the blink of an eye. In fact, they didn't know that there were more than 1,000 dead, and the disciples of 2,000 gas-gathering period surrounding Zuyuanyuanzu had no time to throw a flying sword, and they were chopped to death by the of thunder. The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 549. May 4th 9 Patriarchs. But this is not over yet. As the thunder dissipated, I saw that the 99,999-story stone steps leading to the top of Zufeng Mountain were lit. From bottom to top, they were lit in turn. The stone steps are like a ladder. When the last stone staircase was lit, the Zhenyuan pillar, which was inserted into the sky at the top of the mountain, also emitted golden light. Those people who worshipped in the Yuan dynasty had no grief or joy on their faces. They knelt down on the ground like pious believers, and together they recited a mantra similar to the scriptures. Changes also took place in the sky. I saw dark clouds from all directions rushing fast, and heavy raindrops like a waterfall fell. At this time no one would be in the rain. They looked up at the sky. The wind surged, the dark clouds turned and slowly rotated. The voices of the disciples of Yun Yuanzong recite louder and louder, and the mysterious scripture seems to have magic power. The golden light on the Zhenyuan pillar is getting more and more brighter. When the Tongtian giant pillar is lightened to gold in all, you can see countless mysterious runes appearing on the pillar, surrounded by 7 colors of qi. The black cloud in the sky has also rotated into a huge spiral nest with a length of hundreds of miles. The center of the spiral nest is directly opposite the Zhenyuan pillar, pointing directly at the sky. At this moment, not only the disciples of various factions were surprised, but also the ancestors of the Yuanying stunned. What kind of formation is this? It can make a natural vision. Huang Hao's ancestors were so shocked that they couldn't care where his Yuanying Jun was struck by lightning. Shi Dingfeng caressed Xianxia and shook his head. I have never heard of it, but this mixed Yuan sect was the first major sect in Kangbei at that time. It is reasonable to have these secret methods, but I did not expect such great power. And Lian Fanchen was even more worried. Did you all forget that the pillar can be thought through the sky? Originally thought it was a legend, now it seems that it is true. Don't. All the ancestors of the babies thought of a possibility, and they looked at the huge golden pillar pointing directly at the vortex of the sky again in suspicion. They were extremely afraid of the realization of their thoughts. If that was the case, all the monks present were afraid that none of them would survive. Yakong was also stunned watching the miracle-like wonderland. It was too magical and magnificent. Although I have seen similar scenes in the movies of the earth, I was immersed in them, but with different horrors. He now knows why Wang Ting asked him to meet under Zhenyuanzu, because only there was safe. And why did Wang Tingshi say that you so diverse baby monks won't win, just because of this powerful spell? Did not let everyone wait for a long time. Suddenly a quiet voice came out of the vortex in the sky. The voice spread across the world. People are fascinated, but there are immensely powerful power. The sound is so beautiful, as if from ancient times. But the sound was so mysterious and weird with the common mantra. The rainstorm does not know when it has stopped, and the whole world is quiet, except for the mysterious music and the sound of chanting. Suddenly, the clone of the ancestor Lei Miao, who was standing, looked up and yelled, "Ancestors are on, have you heard? Did you see them? The major factions in Kangnan killed me and my son. Zong Ji Yi, destroying the inheritance of the mixed Yuan zone. The mixed Yuan zone was destroyed today, and the situation is at stake. Please ask the ancestors to destroy the enemy." Hearing this sentence, all the Yuan infants of all factions were ashamed. Their speculation became a display, but there was no reward, only death. If the ancestors of the mixed Yuan zone were really invited, there would be 10,000 Yuan babies here, not enough to kill a fairy. Just when they were panicked, they saw a bit of a golden mang falling straight in the black vortex in the sky and hitting the top of Zhenyuan pillar. Dang, a voice like Hong Zhong sounded melodiously. Ah, Lei Miao, who was standing under the column of Zhuan Yuan, suddenly screamed. You can see that the numerous magpies around the stone pillar immediately gathered together and surrounded Lei Miao, unable to see his expression. What to do? Or let's withdraw first, said the elder Yuanying of the Baron family in a panic. The Balem family, which is also his original baby, has brought out the elite children who are almost dead. If his original baby dies again, the Balem family will soon be broken. What panic, Shi Dingfeng roared again, and said, if it's really the fairy immortal, do you think you can escape? The babies of Yun's family were instantly dejected. Shi Dingfeng was right, even if he started running now, how far can he run? Immortals, to this world, they exist like gods. However, Shi Dingfeng said again, I don't think it's the real immortal lower bound, but the immortal lower bound. The ancestor of the beast of Ling Jushan is also a late monk of the Yuan dynasty. He nodded, I have also studied the classics in this area. If it is the immortal deities, it is difficult to say. The strength is far worse than the true fairy. Shi Dingfeng added, moreover, it is only the clone of the old guy Lei Miao who accepts the immortal consciousness. It is the practice of building the base period. I think that we are so diverse baby monks, we may not be in a war. If Shi Dingfeng, all the monks present gave a shot of chicken blood. Yes, it is just a god's consciousness, and it is attached to an avatar built by the foundation. How powerful can it be? But then a cold hum of a woman came out of thin air. Well, it may not be impossible to fight, then fight and watch. Everyone's eyes were again focused on the column of Yuan, and everyone was surprised to find that this female voice turned out to be a clone of Lei Miao. The nether turned out to be a goddess. The mixed Yuan zone provided a man's body. A little funny, but no one laughed at the scene. Lei Miao's avatar is now surrounded by magpies of immortality. No one can see what it looks like. He only sees a human figure surrounded by 7 colors of light, which is very magical. After listening to her, Lei Miao worshipped with a disciple of Yuan zone. The head of the 275th Yuan dynasty, Lei Miao, led his disciples and met his ancestors. The woman's voice rang again. No courtesy, what's the matter? I can't stay in the nether for too long. Lei Miao hurriedly said, since I came to the Kangnan continent, the talents have withered and gradually declined. The fairy said, to make a long story short, who is going to break my inheritance of Yuan zone? Lei Miao quickly pointed at the schools in the sky and said, it's them, 17 high gates and 5 families in Kangnan mainland. Then, don't go away, said the fairy faintly, turning around. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 550. 55-0 Divine Light. As soon as this remark was made, the disciples of Yuanzong were all excited, but they did not dare to laugh, and all their faces were filled with joy. On the contrary, all the coalitions here were all ashes on their faces. The immortals went to the lower bounds, and the only thing waiting for them was death. Shi Dingfeng said a lot just now, and now he stepped out and said, meet the immortals of the upper world, and the contemporary Yuan Ying Shi Dingfeng in Xiaokagugu. The ancestor of the ancestor Lei Miao, who was mixed with Yuan Zong just now, was collusion. The evil revision corpse Yin Zong, betrayed his faith, and attempted to attack us. The fairy didn't listen to the explanation at all, and interrupted, I only ask, but you want to break my inheritance of Yuan dynasty. Shi Dingfeng didn't know how to answer. He did say that he should break the lineage of Yuan Zone before, or he said it himself. He couldn't pull down his face and refuse to admit it. When the fairy heard it, she said no more and raised her hand. Lightly groaned in his mouth. Extinction God light. A white beam of light shot out suddenly, very bright, so bright that it couldn't be seen directly. It's also very fast. When the beam of light appeared, the tail light of the beam of light had already shot thousands of miles away. Yekong felt that his eyes were bright, and when he looked at it again, he saw that Shi Dingfeng had a terrible blood cave on his body. Behind Shi Dingfeng, those disciples in Qingming were all illuminated by white light. Dead. One by one fell from the flying sword, like dumplings. The power of the fairy is too powerful. It's just that you just reach for your finger, no matter what you do, it's all gone. Those mixed UN zone disciples were excited. Too great. Destroy the light of God, it sounds great when heard, and God can be destroyed, not to mention people. The fairy hummed coldly, Shi Dingfeng, I miss you as Shi's second son, I will spare you a life, if you dare to provoke the mixed UN zone, I will take your life. Shi Dingfeng's chest was beaten with a big fist, blood was dripping, and the injuries were not minor, for fear that he would not be able to return for 10 years. Thank you Xianxia. Shi Ding held on for a while, and quickly moved away without a trace, leaving all the monks in Qingmengwu. It's no wonder that Shi Dingfeng escaped alone. The immortal's power was too strong, and he stayed useless. Besides, he was not badly injured. If he was not healed quickly, this body would be destroyed. As soon as Shi Dingfeng left, the other monks were even more desperate. The major monks in the late Yuanying period could not stop others from easily pointing, and they did not even have the strength of resistance, so let alone others. Anyway, it was a death, and someone cut it out. Don't look at the oldest zone Huang Hao, the temperament is still hot. Wu that immortal. You come down and kill people indiscriminately, don't you think our denominations have no ancestors in the upper world? Be careful to provoke the anger and be chased by the immortals, Huang Hao roared. The fairy turned her face, her voice still asked lightly, who are you? Liang Zone heads Yuan Ying, Huang Hao. The ridiculous Feng's family was turned into an ancestor to be an ancestor. The fairy smirked with a faint smile, and said lightly, dare to scold Ben Xianjun, even if Feng Xian came here, I will take you to practice the fatalities of everyone in Qi Zone. Everyone took a breath of air. No wonder this woman is so powerful that she is an immortal. Even in the immortal world, the immortal monarch is a person who looks up. All the UN zone people stood up, Lei Miao was even more excited, and looked at the people from all factions. Die, all die. In this way, the entire Kangnan continent will only have mixed UN zone and dead Yinzong. When I go to Kangbei to find follow-up exercises, sooner or later I can also become a fairy. On the other hand, the 17 coalition forces are all face-to-face, but Xianjun, fleeing, resisting, and all are invalid, are all the elites in Kangnan will die here? But when the fairy raised her hand, she heard a pair of short sentences in the crowd. The avenue is divided into yin and yang, and Zikang shoots the sky. Almost none of the people present knew what it meant, not even the grown himself, but one person understood, the fairy. Talk out, the fairy yelled. Since her appearance, her tone is basically tepid and very bland, but when she hears the sentence, she seems to be poked by her s. Naturally speaking, Ye Kong, anyway, was a dead man, so he might as well fight it. Since this fairy girl knows the second child of Shi, and the mixed UN zone is also a martial arts sect, she must understand the meaning of this short sentence. Ye Kong looked at the fairy's attitude, and was happy. I'm right? But others were scared to death. Huang Zixuan and others looked at someone dumbly. Why didn't they realize that the boy was in his early days? Isn't this the middle of the night and went to the hut, looking for death? Cao Guang almost scolded his mouth, your mother, do nt chant the poems early, but do not chant the poems. When you chant the poems at this time, aren't you scared to be in trouble? Come out, the fairy reached out her hand and Ye Kong felt surrounded by a powerful force dragged out of the crowd. Ye Kong just came out, and Huang Zixuan followed, blocking him. Unexpectedly, this girl is really a good girl, she wants to live and die with her. Ye Kong's heart felt warm. What made him even more surprised was that Zhang Wulin followed later. Cao Junfan followed. Lan Tianming followed. Ye Xian followed. They stood next to Ye Kong, took out the magic weapon, made a defensive posture, and looked at the opposite coldly. What about the fairy? To take my friend's life, step on my body first. All monks were stunned. Are these young people impatient? You are standing in front of an immortal and holding a weapon, don't you think it's ridiculous? But the actions of Zhang Wulin and others clearly told them. Not funny. Waiting for death is ridiculous. Don't be sad. It is sad to watch a friend die silently. None of them spoke, but what they could express was deafening. You can destroy us physically, but you can never conquer us mentally. At this moment, Yekong had tears in his eyes. What are friends? This is a true friend. When it matters, stand up and stay on. Who said that the monks in Kangnan were selfish, and their feelings were like ice? No. At least we young people, not so. This is not called impulse, but blood. However, these young people who were united to disregard life and death did not arouse the sympathy of the fairy. On the contrary, she sneered, stupid. Hey, you can't say where that sentence comes from, you and you all your denominations will die. Cao Guang was so tense that he was in the early days of Yuan Ying. Shi Dingfeng couldn't resist the fairy, and he didn't expect it. He hated this dead boy, so he read nothing wrong. And your grandson, why do you come out? Fighting with immortals. The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 551. May 5th shocked the secret. Everyone was terribly nervous, but someone didn't have any awareness, but nodded and said, Xianxia, I can answer your question, but can you listen to me to say a few digressions first? Everyone was more nervous. This kid really doesn't know how to write the dead words, and actually talk to the fairy about the conditions, but that's the fairy. But what was surprising was that the fairy girl agreed, have something to say. Under the Yuan column over there, Lei Miao's ancestor snorted coldly and stood against his hands. He would like to see what the blackbird can say to reverse the world. Unexpectedly, someone's words immediately shocked him to a half-death. Yekong said, Xianxia, you said just now that whoever breaks the lineage of Yuan Zone, you will kill anyone, but Xianxia, you know, the people who break the lineage of Yuan Zone are not 17 Jiao men. It's him. Yekong shouted loudly, pointing his finger suddenly at the ancestor of Lei Miao standing on the top of the mountain. Lei Miao's heart trembled suddenly, and a bad feeling surged up. He yelled, the ancestor must listen to this boy's nonsense. This boy is bold, scheming, and articulate. The stones can be said to bloom, the ancestor must not be blinded by the sun. Every stone can be said to blossom, Yekong could feel it, and the fairy looked at her again before she said, then you continue to say, I want to see how smart you are. Yekong smiled lightly, flying a few steps forward with a flying sword, and smiled at Lei Miao again, saying, it is reasonable to say that Lei Miao broke the inheritance of the Junyuan sect, because he. Yet he paused for a while, attracting the attention of the audience, and then said loudly, he is a spy from the dead Yin sect to the mixed Yin sect. I don't see how long the mixed Yin sect will pass, it will become a corpse Yin sect semicolon, isn't this breaking the inheritance of the mixed Yuan zone? All the monks at the scene were stunned. I did not expect that this material turned out to be so fierce. The mixed Yuan zone, one of Kangnan's high gates, and his ancestor Yuan were actually spies of other factions. Real or fake? How did Li Heze know about this? Even those disciples who mixed Yuan zone looked at Lei Miao suspiciously. Lei Miao jumped like a thunder and roared, nonsense. All nonsense. The old man has been in the Yuan sect for more than 150 years and has always been diligent and diligent. How can you allow such slander? Grandpa, please let Lei Miao kill this child. The fairy hasn't asked how this person knew the two poems, how could she let others kill Yekong, and hummed at Lei Miao at the moment, if it is defamatory, what are you in a hurry? Really this fairy is so confused, easily blinded? Then she said to Yekong, "Hey, you must have evidence to speak, you can't believe it. If you can't prove it, Bengzian will kill your whole family. Don't be afraid, Bengzian can't find your family, as long as you have a drop of blood, this everyone on the mainland who has a blood relationship with you can find Bengzian Jun." Everyone was uproar. Not surprised by the immortal magical powers, but lamented that Lihiza was miserable. "Although you are trying to save us all, you can't lie to the immortals like this, isn't the immortals so foolish? Alas, still too young." But someone still smiled immortally, even clapped his hands and applauded, "It's great, Xianxia has such a magical power, that's even better, but what I'm about to say next, that is, Lei Miao's ancestor's life issue. He is not only the spy of the dead Yin sect, but also the brother of the ancestor of the dead Yin ancestor." Another giant bomb exploded in the sky, and no one was impressed by the presence of the immortals. All the monks, regardless of whether they were enemy or me, were all eager. "Is that so? Who knows? I see it is possible. But how did Li Hiza know?" In Yunfu Zhongzhen, Cao Guang's ancestor, who had been nervous all the time, was somewhat relaxed. He could see that this boy was not nonsense, of course, it was nonsense. If he could say such a jerk, that was also successful. If you are a fairy, you have already believed by 80%. Cao Muse whispered, "Uncle, this Li Hiza is too bold, the fairy is so deceived. This lie is too big." Cao Guang laughed, "Look at it, my apprentice is doing things, I'm relieved." Cao Muse snorted. "There is no apprentice to any master, and she is still so happy at this time." At this moment, Lei Miao was the most nervous. Lurking for 150 years, bearing the burden of humiliation, struggling, and walking step by step to this day, seeing the plan to write down the final success, but did not expect this trouble. "Hey, I fight with you. Anyway, it's a death, it's better to kill this real person first." Lei Miao's ancestors decided to prepare for a teleportation to kill Li Hiza. A 3-story building should be very good. He is fast, but someone is faster. Before Lei Miao started, she saw the fairy lift her hand and waved, and she didn't know what spell it was. Lei Miao suddenly exploded out of her body. The flame was magically very deep. It was drilling from inside to outside. "The fiercer burns." Lei Miao shouted, "Why does the baby fire spontaneously ignite? I'm not willing." Then he fell to the ground and died. The body was burned into coke, the baby fire spontaneously ignited, and it started to burn from Yuan Ying. Of course, Yuan Ying couldn't escape, so it fell. The fairy killed Lei Miao at will, which surprised everyone. In any case, you have to confirm it first. When you hear someone say, "You will kill the suzerain of the offspring," this is too hasty. Even Yekong was shocked. He originally wanted to say, "If you do nt believe it, use the blood method to see if Lei Miao and Fallen Heaven are close brothers." But I did not expect that the fairy did not verify at all, and raised her hand to destroy Lei Miao, which was really an accident. His ancestors, is Lao Tzu's words so honest and credible? In fact, it is not that he is honest and credible. The key is that the fairy cannot stay long. It is not a problem for her to kill a baby. She is concerned about the issues behind. "Well, I've killed him, now you can answer where those 2 poems came from," said the fairy. "Yes, Xianxia, don't you find it inconvenient to speak here?" Yekong didn't want to reveal his secret in public. The fairy was right when she thought about it. She swung her big sleeves and spread the air around her, immediately wrapping Yekong and herself in it. Yekong saw the woman's face clearly. Although she occupied Lei Miao's avatar, her face was the face of a woman. Yekong looked a little familiar with this woman. "Well, you can speak now, you can't hear or see outside," said the fairy. But someone said, "This matter concerns a lot of people. If they are heard by Xiao, especially Xianxia Xiao, they will shake the world, so please come and see me. Why are you doing so much? The fairy was a little annoyed, but thinking about some of the truth he said, she had to withdraw from Lei Miao's body and said, well, let's talk now, hurry up, the fairy is thin here in the form of magic power, I will not support it for a long time.